you guys have a lot of fans that are really looking forward to seeing you this Friday and Saturday because you haven't. When was the last time that you were playing together?
Well, let's see. We played our last show as the original Pressure Boys sometime in 1988, I believe, and then we didn't play again until the last time we decided to get together was over 5 years ago in 2008. We played a similar benefit at the Cradle kind of thing, 2 nights. So it's been five and a half.
7 years.
That's
Wow.
7 years.
My goodness. So going back to the beginning, so how and where did the Pressure Boys actually form in the beginning?
Well, the Pressure Boys started at Chapel Hill High School, and we had probably spent about 6 months going around telling every girl who would listen that we were in a band. We had never actually been in the same room together. And then there was a young woman named Sarah Romweber who went to high school with us, and she is, or was, the drummer for a band called Let's Active, which was Mitch Easter's band. You folks will know them because he produced REM and a bunch of other big things.
Yeah.
So she asked us if we could open for her at the Cradle, so we all of a sudden had to get serious about actually being a band instead of talking about being one. So we formed up, did that show. A few years later, Jack joined the band, and there you had it.
Yep.
We were a band, we were high school friends, and still are.
I think I went and saw them play at a high school talent show at Chapel Hill before I was in the band. They were I guess you guys were still, or that was a precursor maybe.
That was
to
a
the Pressure.
precursor.
Yeah.
Yes.
So are all of the members of the Pressure Boys from Chapel Hill High School in the original lineup?
No, all of us were in the original lineup. We now have a trumpet player named Jay Widenhouse, who was with the Squirrel Nut Zippers, but who we picked up first, and he replaced our former trumpet player, Stacy Guess.
So I know you said that Sarah Romweber, of drummer for Let's Active, and also the Dex Romweber duo, asked you to open for them at Cat's Cradle, but why else did you decide to form as a band? Was it just that which made you get serious, or were you just friends that enjoyed playing music together, listen to similar records?
I think the obvious answer was that we thought girls would like it. But we weren't necessarily friends.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew each other and played music. They actually wanted a different sax player that was their friend, but he wouldn't play. So then they asked me.
Yeah. So what would you say some of your biggest influences for you personally and as the Pressure Boys as a whole, who some of your biggest influences would be, and how did you draw your style, your specific style of music from them?
Well, I think this gets back to why the band formed in the first place. I guess in the early 80s there was that big second wave ska with the Specials, English Beat, and bands like that. And I think I was certainly one of the people that first Specials album came out. It sort of changed everything. It made everybody want to play that kind of music. And we'd also come up through the band programs at Chapel Hill High, so there were a lot of horn players around, and we thought, ska band, natural fit. So knowing the guy, I knew all the guys, even though I wasn't in the band right at the beginning. But I'm pretty sure it was because everybody wanted to play ska, and so and early Pressure Boys shows that I would attend, there were a lot of covers in the mix. There was a lot of favorite stuff from records we were all listening to.
Yeah. So I don't know if a lot of our listeners know exactly what ska is. So how would you define ska and some other examples of artists who would fit under the ska category?
The artist I think most people will know now would be Madness.
Yeah.
They have continued to play. They continue to put out music. And musically, ska would be reggae done quickly.
Yeah.
It's guitar off beats, heavy bass lines, heavy walking bass lines, and
studio trickery, sort of like from the dub kind of side of things, a lot of echo and a lot of remixes. I mean, it was a culture that arose in Jamaica, and it was really kind of an island interpretation of American soul music in the very, very early days.
Yeah.
But this second wave was sort of a British thing that spread to the United States, and there's been a third wave of ska resurgence, I guess, who were those bands? No Doubt, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, all those kind of bands from the 90s.
Yeah.
And so...
So did you ever cover any songs by Madness or other ska bands like that?
At first, it's all we did.
Yeah.
We did a lot of Madness. We did a lot of U2, early U2. We did a lot of the Specials. And
Bad Manners. There were a bunch in there.
And that, so we started out playing covers, but quickly we're writing our own stuff. And it just kind of grew from there. We started in high school, and what we first did was sophomoric, and then as time went by, we kind of grew into the job.
Yeah. So what led you to start writing your own music versus just covering different artists?
It was mostly Rob, John, and Brian. Very thoughtful, mature music writing people. I mean, they are very thoughtful musicians, and so they started writing early on. I think that I can remember Stacy and I kind of looking at each other the first time that they came in and go, "All right, write a horn line for this," and we were kind of laughing, wondering what to do, and so we were guided into it by those three in the early days, and it was just they were the driving force. They made it happen, and that's how it happened.
Yeah. So you were talking about them being really well-rounded and whole musicians. So personally, what would you both say is the most important aspect of being a musician?
I guess the cliche is to play from the heart, which I take to mean a certain kind of honesty and lack of sort of posing, I guess. I mean, that's why I always looked up to John and Rob in particular is I could tell that everything that those guys did came from a pretty deep place inside them, and there didn't seem to be anything artificial about it. And so,
and I'm going to interrupt and say one thing here. If you come to these shows on Friday and Saturday, when you watch, and I'm going to exclude myself from this list, you watch the other five guys up there, you're going to be looking at Rob Ladd, one of the best drummers that you will ever have the opportunity to see.
Yeah.
You'll be looking at Jack Campbell, who I feel the same way about. I feel the same way about Brian and John and JW. They're an amazing group of people.
Yeah.
And because they take their craft seriously, they joke around, but when they're playing, they enjoy it, but it's serious business, and they're not kidding, and they're going to give a good show. Now they've been playing professionally for 35 years.
Oh my gosh.
There are few bands out there that have the staying power to be around like that. These musicians have incredible group of guys. You go to see them, you'll learn something.
Yeah.
And Pressure Boys is like putting on an old coat, I mean, the guys, I coming in from Chicago to do these shows, and everybody's like, "Wow, man, I can't believe you drove all this way." I said, "I'd drive from Alaska to play with these guys." I mean, it's super fun. The songs come right back, and it's going to be a good time.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break and listen to a song by the Pressure Boys. We are going to listen to, arguably, probably their most popular, "Where the Cowboys Went," off of Wrangell Dune. So keep it locked on 88.1 and listen to this awesome song. WKNC back in the studio with the Pressure Boys. I'm still here with Greg Stafford and Jack Campbell. So back to what we were talking about. So you reunited in 2008 at Cat's Cradle again for cystic fibrosis, right?
That is correct.
So
why did you reunite in 2008? Because you broke up in 1998, correct?
Well,
88.
91 is the last show.
Oh,
Was
those old Cradle shows, those
right.
reunion shows. Okay.
But our lead singer, John Plymel's daughter, has cystic fibrosis. Mm-hmm. And so he wanted to do a fundraiser for the CF Foundation. And when John says to do something, you do it.
Well, we all wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And a good cause makes it easier too. You know, I don't think anybody would sort of just think, hey, you know, let's all get together so we can go make a couple $100 or something like that. But you know, to do something and raise awareness and help some people out, that makes it very easy.
Yeah, it had to have been pretty special to bring you guys all back together after all of that time.
That was just so fun too. I mean, it's such a blast I think for all of us. I'll speak for everybody.
Is Cat's Cradle one of your favorite venues? Because I know you said it was one of your first when opening for Let's Active, and then also with these like sold out reunion shows and stuff.
Not just ours. It's got to be a lot of people's favorite venue. It's such a special place, and it was definitely home for the Pressure Boys. It was home to a lot of bands from this area, and the state's lucky to have it. It's a cultural institution.
And Frank does a tremendous job, and without Frank, there wouldn't be a North Carolina scene the way that there is.
Yeah.
He books the clubs. He almost decides what's cool for North Carolina, and he's that musically talented at identifying what's good, and has turned it into a great club and a great place to be.
Not to take anything away from North Carolina's other fine musical venues.
Yeah, of course. So going off of that, what similarities do you think there are going to be between this year's, I mean, they're both reunion benefit shows. One was back in 2008, and now we have another this Friday and Saturday at Cat's Cradle. What similarities were there between deciding to do it and the shows themselves and the audience and the crowd reaction and whatnot?
Be hard to say. We'll have to see on Friday and Saturday. We're older. Yeah. That's what's different, you know? But we're all still here.
Yeah.
We're older. I was also at the last shows. You know, I really did. I had these nightmares that, oh my God, I'm going to play for the first time, you know, in 20 years or whatever. I'm going to walk out there and it's a bunch of geriatrics and it's going to be depressing. And it was actually quite the opposite. And it was flattering to see how many college age kids were there and knew the music and really liked it. So it was. Yeah. That was enjoyable. It was flattering. It was gratifying. And hopefully it's going to be the same. In fact, I spoke with Frank, who owns the Cradle, yesterday, and he said that the demand is much higher, that it's going to sell out, that it's going to be uber packed. So I'm excited, and I know as high energy as it was last time, I'm looking for more.
Yeah, it should be a really fun show. I'm definitely going to be there. But as you were saying, how you were worried about being older and whatnot, but how do you think that you've matured as artists? Because I know that you're obviously much older than when you first formed the band, but do you think you've matured artistically?
I'm going to say this from the outside again, then let Jack take over. Back when we were first playing, we thought we were great. I now, as a guy who practices to get ready for these shows, looks at the rest of these guys, and I know that they're great. If you watch these guys play, they are, tops around here at what they do. And so they've matured through 35 years of professional playing and have become great players, and now Jack can give the humble version.
Well, we're playing all the old songs, so we're not going to be like the songs haven't matured as artists or whatever. But I do think part of you gets better as a musician your whole life. Your reflexes and your fingers slow down. You get arthritis and stuff. But it's so essential to listen to what the other players are doing and to play together. And you just keep getting better at that. Your ego starts to get out of the way as you get a little bit older and you're really trying to create something with the other people. If you can't do that at all, you were never a good band in the first place. But that piece of it, and sometimes deciding what not to play, and being willing to try new approaches if it's not coming together, you get better at all that stuff. You loosen up into it. And when you're young, you're sort of defensive about what you're doing a little bit. You're staking out your ground musically and trying to, I don't know. It's the older you get, the more you just sort of want to relax into it a little bit. So I'm pleased with the way the last shows went. I thought we sounded great. You can tell sometimes when old guys just get back together and they're like, oh, they love us. We can just get up there and sort of be sloppy and everybody will dig it. It'll be a big party. We cared, man. We really wanted to play better than we ever had. And I think that attitude's still in place.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take another break, and we're going to hear Armchair Radical, this time by the Pressure Boys, and also some local news. So stay tuned on 88.1 WKNC.
Garante, através de contactos com as partes envolvidas no conflito, a aplicação das Convenções de Genebra. O nacional
Hello, this is Alice and Shayna from La Luz, and you're listening to WKNC Rally.
WKNC 88.1. This is still Indigo. So we are in here with the Pressure. If you're just tuning in, we are in here with Greg Stafford, the saxophonist, and Jack Campbell, the bass player of 80s ska Southeast legends, the Pressure Boys. So you've played recent shows. You played at Cat's Cradle in 2008, and you're playing again this Friday and Saturday. So what do you think stands out the most to you, as different or similar as that of like the 80s Triangle, North Carolina music scene?
It's still here and it's still doing things. You've watched music scenes sort of die out in a lot of places in the U.S. Paying money to go out and see bands that people like is still something that people do around here. And far from that being sort of backwards or different, it's because the local club owners keep bringing in bands that get people to get out. And that's one of my favorite things about coming back here, is it's really fun to go hear music here.
And there's a lot of bands we're seeing. I think, I feel strange saying kids today, but I truly believe that the area has created a bunch of music worth listening to, and John Plimal produces a lot of it, and I've heard it through him, and tremendous bands out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a rumor going around, or not really a rumor, but in the 1980s about the original singer for Van Halen being named Greg Stafford. And I wondered if you had any comment about that.
I just try to quell all the talk about that. I just want to talk about the Pressure Boys and the foundation of what we're doing.
Being modest, of course.
So you're doing this. These are two of the times that you've gotten back together after splitting up. They've both been for benefit concerts. So I know obviously you want to give back to Mr. Plimal's. His family's been affected by cystic fibrosis. Obviously for your when you performed for Songs for 65 Roses back in 2008, and now for the Be Loud Sophie Foundation this Friday and Saturday at Cat's Cradle. So. But what, other than that, just then straight up for the benefit part, what do you hope to give back to like North Carolina and the music scene and the roots that you came from?
Well, I like to think that a lot of people want to see the Pressure Boys again, So I mean,
Here's open.
I hope they're not just coming out because it's a good cause. I think a lot of our old fans want to see if we can still cut the mustard.
And again, I think given to the Be Loud Sophie Foundation, to me, is enough.
Yeah.
Meaning that I want to play well, and I want to play well for selfish reasons. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I also want this foundation to do well, because when you're starting a foundation and you're memorializing a lost child, Sophie died at 15 years old last year. Mm-hmm. And creating something that didn't exist before. And it's for cancer patients, in the age group which you're in, the 13 to 23-year-old group. They're not quite adults yet, but they're not kids either.
Yeah. And
how do you deal with that? How, when you go to the hospital and you become a fixture there, how do you deal with it? How do you continue with your life not knowing if your life is going to continue? And I think that that's a tough thing, and this is a worthwhile cause, and giving that to this community is tremendous in and of itself. I think it's a great idea, and when you get to my age, you start knowing kids who are sick with cancer.
Yeah.
And seeing the bravery and confusion all rolled into one is something to deal with. And so I think that's it. Given to this foundation is totally worth it and is a huge thing to us.
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for coming into the studio today to do this interview. The Pressure Boys are playing with not only by themselves, but on August 8th and Saturday, August 9th at Cat's Cradle. August 8th is going to be the Pressure Boys, the Connells, and the Dex Romweber duo. And August 9th is going to be the Pressure Boys, Let's Active, and a number of things. Once again, it's supporting adolescent cancer patients, and it's